Dumb, cool,
weird
podcast. Well, welcome to the Dumb, Cool, Weird podcast. I'm Wes. This is Nick. And today we have Mr. Alvin. And how do we say your last name, Alvin?
Cowan.
Cowan. Okay, Mr. Alvin Cowan. And today we would kind of want to. We looked at your credentials, and we kind of want to talk about some of the really cool people you've gotten to work with. In the industry you're working out there. We think that'd be kind of cool to kind of touch on that a little bit because I actually work in the film industry here in Georgia. And
cool.
So I've been doing it for like 8 or 9 years, and I'm starting to grow a good bit. Like in the middle of May, I'm going to be going out to LA to talk about getting this low budget horror feature made over here in Georgia. And there's a couple producers out there that want to meet me because my buddy lives out there, and that was actually the guy we had on the last podcast was my buddy. He's a famous porn star that lives out there in California. So
the man, the meat, the legend.
So,
are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious. So so he's a pretty cool dude. He's about to retire from that industry, but but being out there and doing what he does, he's met so many.
Here, let's use this one.
Just give me something to prop it against, man. God.
I love your chandelier, by the way. Your chandelier is great.
Oh yeah, the girl I rent this place from, she installed this like the day I moved in, and I was just like, huh. That's an interesting chandelier you put in for me.
Yeah.
Maybe not great podcast radio talk, but for actually being able to see the chandelier, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually moving pretty soon. I'm moving up like 45 to 50 minutes north of Atlanta, and the new place that I'm moving to has actually got an area that's perfect for a studio. So the new spot's going to be a lot better. So
yeah,
that's great.
It's going to be a closer drive, too.
Yep. So, but yeah, I just thought it was interesting that it sounds like you've worked with a bunch of cool people. So I like to talk about stuff like that.
I don't know any porn stars, so I guess we'll have to start there. I'm not in the adult side of the industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've been fortunate, I guess, in my career to kind of work with some household names, Clint Eastwood and Bradley Cooper, and
oh, cool,
nice.
Did a little scene with Bruce Willis and James Caan. It's funny because I guess those names mean a lot, to folks out there, and they're certainly well deserved in terms of their reputations, but it's funny when you I guess from working in the film business, I'm sure that you get on set and it's really kind of about the job and about putting the best product out there, and those guys are just tradesmen, tradescraft guys that obviously excel in what they do, but not a whole lot different from the rest of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I worked on The Haunting of Hill House for the entire show, like a year and 3 months. I've worked on several other Netflix shows, but that was like the longest show I ever worked on because we ran for so long, and we had a lot of big names on there. But then, after a while, it's like these people with big names just become like, there's Joe, there's Susan.
Yeah.
It's not really like they're I guess the star power kind of
Lord Eastwood.
Yeah, it just kind of just fades over time. And actually, working for Clint is really nice because his set days are only like 10 hours most of the time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's got that bus, that charter bus on location, and in the middle of the day, if he needs to go take a nap or grab a bite to eat or whatever, he just hops on his bus.
Smart move.
Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah, when I worked with The Rock had a portable gym when I was working with him.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I believe that. Yeah.
That seems to be like a him
on
thing.
brand.
Yeah. He basically I was working on the Jumanji movie, and he had like a giant I guess it's about the same size as a semi truck, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a
gym inside. Yeah, with a gym inside of it. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's cool. That I mean, look, like more power to him, right? For being that committed to his workouts. I mean, that's why he's The Rock, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's why he kind of
gets
keeps
paid
it
the
going.
big bucks just for that.
So it was like working with some of these people. Like, did you get to talk to them a good bit when you worked with them?
It varied, Milo, who's the lead actor on This Is Us and kind of a TV heartthrob, he's become somewhat of a mentor and a close friend. And, I mean, he's been nominated for a number of Emmys. And, I think I count some of the conversations that I had with him, to be some of the more enlightening conversations that I've had as maybe an actor in all of Hollywood. Whereas, I don't know that I ever really met Bradley Cooper. I think I met Chris Kyle. It was like he was pretty method and channeling, Chris Kyle for that film. And, he kind of stayed to himself. So I think it just varies about, how those people work and what, how invested in the part they are. And not to say that Milo's not invested in his part. I think he's very much a professional, but he also kind of takes it upon himself to make sure that, the other actors are comfortable so that everybody can do their best work. And I think that, really shows in terms of the product that show pumps out.
That's good.
Yeah.
Glad you're able to find a mentor out of that. I guess his, words of wisdom have been pretty helpful for you, I bet.
Yeah, for sure. He's been around a long time. Milo has, and he's branched out into. I mean, he was on Heroes, and I don't even know what his credits are, but I know he started doing it, very early in college, and has been around it. He grew up in Irvine, and so he's been around it for a long time. And so anytime you can get on set and talk to people that are achieving at that level in the business and have been around it for that long, they can certainly teach you a few things. And I think more than anything, what stuck out to me from him was just kind of his artistic leadership in some ways, where it was kind of like, he felt responsible for the other actors, both in their physical and, physical well-being, but beyond, because I mean, we were shooting Vietnam fight scenes. So, there was some guns and explosions, and, as we've seen, there can be some dangers there. So
yeah, I believe it.
He took that on, but he also, created an environment for the actors where he was kind of the go-between between production and actor. And so, if there was something that you weren't comfortable with or something that you were, kind of struggling to work on, he was always kind of your mouthpiece. And I just, I admire that from the lead of a show. Not every lead of a show wants to, sometimes they're very much wrapped up in their own world and what they've got to accomplish for that day, and aren't necessarily looking out for all the other actors. But Milo certainly did.
That's good. Sounds like you've had a pretty eventful life. We looked into some of your backstory. We found it very interesting. We saw that you lived in Texas originally, and you were trying to go pro with football, and then you went to Romania.
And
and did some.
Romania. What was the other one?
What do you mean?
What was the other? He went to two countries, Romania and
Albania.
Albania.
Yeah, and then he said that he came back from there, and you said you moved to LA because of a girl, and then the girl ended up
breaking up
with you.
Yeah, right about 2 weeks in LA, and she just dumped me, man. I mean, that was
Jesus Christ.
It's pretty cold-blooded as far as I'm concerned. But
I would expect that maybe she'd break up with you after a year, but like 2 weeks after you moved, that's fucked up.
Yeah. The truth is, I probably deserved it. I mean, moving out there and just invading her world and her space. I mean, I probably got what I deserved there. But
was she trying to be an actress too or something?
She wasn't. She was a communication. She was finishing up a communications master at USC, and I think was getting into her career, and we had dated while I was in Eastern Europe, and long distance, and we had known each other from high school, and started dating kind of when I finished up college, and then so I guess the point is we dated for about a year and didn't really see much of each other because I was in in all these weird places. And but I think she was finishing up her school and ready to move on from LA and figure out her career, and I was moving to LA, and so it was just kind of, I think, circumstance and timing. We were headed in opposite directions, and I think she knew that before I did.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, it makes.
Yeah, sometimes people see what's going on before you even see it. So I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense. But it sounds like you got
Yeah.
a family now, like a kid, and it sounds like you probably might even be happier, versus like if you would have stayed with her. So
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, things happen for a reason, and I kind of, it's interesting because I don't know that I would have ever found acting or film and TV if I had not moved to LA, right?
No.
And she was kind of the reason why I moved to LA, and when we broke up, I just said I've got to put a stake in the ground. I'm not going to just go running back to Texas with my tail between my legs, and so. I stayed, and that turned out to be a great decision, and I ended up being there for 20 years and still spend quite a bit of time there, and obviously met my wife, and we now have a 2-year-old. So all in all, like you said, I think it worked out for the best.
And you don't live in California now, or do you still live in California?
Where I live is a bit of an interesting question because I bounce back and forth. But we own a home in Bend, Oregon, and I spend most of my time here. But I'm down to LA semi-regularly for meetings or whatever reason, and then I also travel back home to Texas quite a bit, and we own a place there as well.
Yeah, so when I go out to LA in the next month, that's actually gonna be my first time ever going to the West Coast like that. Never done it before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've lived on the East Coast my entire life, and I've been to New York, but I've never been to that far out. I think the furthest out I've ever gone is Colorado, I think.
Seattle's pretty
wow,
nice.
Man, you're in for it.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And then my buddy's driving back from LA because he lives out there, and we're gonna go through a bunch of different states, and I think we're actually gonna go through Texas too. So
yeah,
that'll be pretty cool.
That's a good haul. That's a good drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's definitely gonna be interesting for sure.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, tell us. So tell us about the situation where you went over to Romania. I'm interested to hear that story.
Like what? No one just
yeah.
goes
So yeah, it's an odd place to have spent a lot of time, and it's a bit of an odd place in general. I was after I finished playing college football and then trying to play pro football. I was kind of in this place in life where I didn't really, know what I wanted to do. I kind of always thought that I was going to be a pro football player, and that dream kind of dried up on me. And I met this guy at one of my dad's friends' Christmas parties, and he told me about his job. He was just in town for the week for Christmas, and he was telling me about this job, about how he was, it sounded like he was James Bond, man. It was like he was like
nice
hanging out with beautiful women and partying with Saudi princesses on yachts.
Oof.
And I was like, all right, that sounds cool, And the next thing one thing led to another. He put me in touch with this company, and next thing I knew, I was on a plane to Amsterdam to do a training. And it turns out that it was like, have you guys ever been abroad and been in a hotel room and seen like one of those infomercials where it's like, Romania, come invest in Romania, and it's like a 30-minute like segment where they're basically pitching Romania?
Yeah, it was in Italy they do that.
Go ahead.
No, so in Italy they do that same thing.
So we made those, and the way the business worked was, it's kind of an interesting business model in the sense that like we would get a meeting with the head of state. So we'd send somebody to Brussels to meet with the ambassadors, and they would agree to set us up with a meeting of whoever was the number one politician in the country. So a president or prime minister or whatever. and they'd drop a sales team in, and we would meet and film interviews with the president, the prime minister, or whatever, and then he would set us up with meetings with the cabinet level positions. So, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Commerce, and then they would set us up with the CEOs of the major companies in those countries, and we would sell those guys on the advertising time. So it was kind of a top-down networking approach where we were using the leverage of the meetings with the politicians to get the CEOs to buy ad time. And then we put together this infomercial, and that was like our product, and that's how we made money. And so I did this training, and they didn't have a project for me, and then they called me and put me on a flight to Romania, and I ended up spending 6 months there doing a project, and then was sent out to Albania.
Nice.
And
nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up in Eastern Europe, and then how I ended that is a little bit of a story, I guess.
How you like got out of it, you mean?
Yeah, so when I moved to Albania, I was living. They put me on a team with an Italian guy and a Dutch girl, and they were partners. So they were boyfriend girlfriend, and they put us in a flat, in a condo that we all lived in together. And so they were basically like living together, and I was like the roommate of this couple. And we all worked together. So we've kind of spent all this time together. And the thing in Eastern Europe, at least at the time, I mean, I was there in like 2005, and Albania fell from communism in like 1997. So this is only like 10 years post-communism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the economy wasn't terribly mature, and the difference between like government official, private industry, and organized crime member was not much.
Oh, wow.
Makes sense.
So we just like we were selling these companies, and one of the companies that we were selling kind of made this subtle threat that we should be like giving them this advertising time, not asking them for payment. And so we went back to the apartment, and I'm talking to an Italian guy, mind you, not to make any stereotypes, but he was like, this is just how business is done, this is how we do it over here. And I was like, that's not how I work, man. Like I don't want to be involved in any kind of shady dealings. And so I was on the next flight out because
especially working for, I wouldn't work for free either. Fuck that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was a smart move to leave that situation behind. You never know how bad that can get. Real.
Yeah.
Makes me think of that movie. What were you gonna say?
I don't know how real that was or not. It just wasn't real where I come from,
I think it was the best. It was the best thing you could have done. I mean, that's a good thing to avoid.
Yeah, I think you don't really want to find out how serious people are.
No.
Yeah, I can feel that. Yeah, it makes me think of that movie. You ever seen Eurotrip?
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes me think about that one time when they get like the part in the movie where they get lost in that really shitty country that really didn't have much of a name, and
yeah.
It was just really, really bad. And then they were like sad at first, but then they went in and they ended up figuring out that the exchange rate for their like $50 was literally like hundreds of thousands of dollars or something like that in their money. So they ended up living like kings.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny.
It's funny because there's, other parts of the world, they just work differently, and not right or wrong, but that was not what I was used to.
Yeah, I feel that.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. I probably would have left too.
It's like, I am going to get out of this one.
It's going to be no for me, dog. I'm out.
Here's my letter of resignation. I'm done.
Well, when you were staying there, what was it like? What was the nightlife like? What was like the social setting there like when you're in those two countries?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the most interesting part of that was the Albania part, and I don't know whether it's interesting good or interesting bad, but we stayed in this part of town in Tirana called El Bloco, and it was the block, which was a 4x4 block, like 4 city blocks worth, like square, that had a wall around it, and the wall was like, I don't know, really high, let's say, whatever really high is, a couple stories, story or two.
All right.
And inside that El Bloco was Western shops, Western restaurants, Western hotels, like fully like nice Europe, right? And then outside that wall was third world, dirt streets, shanties, those kinds of things. And I found out later that that was the El Bloco was where the government was housed in Tirana. And so can you imagine like living outside of Tirana, Albania, under communism, and like barely getting by, and like thinking that the whole country is third world, and then communism falls and they open up El Bloco, and you walk in and there's all these hotels and all these beautiful shops. And so a long way of answering your question, but there was really only 4 city blocks worth of like nightlife or restaurants or places to stay. And so it was almost like this little city inside a city, and it's where for me, I was pretty plugged into American expat community through the embassy, and so I ended up mostly hanging out with other Americans or Western Europeans who were abroad, because I didn't speak the language, and but Romania also pretty interesting. I mean, the communist influence in Ceausescu, and some of the buildings they have over there are still very prevalent. It's very Eastern European. I did get invited to a wedding, which was an experience. A lot of firewater drinking.
Oh shit!
So yeah, it was like I said, it was a time of life. It was an experience, and one that I probably wouldn't do again.
Well, what about the ladies over there?
Yeah, I found. I mean, I was dating that girlfriend at the time, but there were certainly, Eastern European women are famous for their looks, and I found that to be the case for sure. They were very, very attractive women.
Yeah, I dated a Ukrainian girl for like 5 years, so I get it.
So
Yep, I know. I know all about it.
They dress up whenever they go out. They can be going to the grocery store, and they always dress up.
Yep, she dressed up a lot. She'd put like full makeup on when we'd just go someplace randomly, and then she would steal a lot of stuff all the time. Not even joking. Like, we would go to Walmart, and she's like, can you go get us some something from this aisle? And I'm like, sure. And come back. We'd check out and we'd leave. She'd steal like $500 worth of shit, and then she'd go to another Walmart and sell it back to him and return it for $500.
Well,
I'd always ask her, I'd be like, how the fuck did you do that? And she's just like,
very sneaky.
I don't know. That's their culture, man. Different world over there,
Yeah. So, like I said, man, it's a different place. They operate by different rules, and not good or bad necessarily. It's how they do it.
It's survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you say, like, if they got like a big place like that where it's first world in this one little spot, but then you walk out and then it's like trash, like third world, like dirt streets. That must be like wild.
A real kick in the pants to find out that all of your politicians were living a really nice, good life, and you've been stuck living in like really poor conditions.
Couldn't even imagine.
No.
I found it pretty stark. Yeah, it was a different. I mean, we were. I mean, at that point, there was no. It wasn't like you couldn't come and go from El Bloco, no matter who you were. But I imagine back in the days when the government was there, that was somewhat secured from people who were living in Tirana, so you couldn't just come and go freely.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Lovely communism. Gotta love it, right?
It's family fun for everyone.
It's funny. There's a lot of the younger generation, people that kids that are like younger than us. I'm like 32. He's like 20, 28, 29.
Yeah.
And a lot of younger kids nowadays don't understand how bad communism was back in the 20th century. And you have a lot of people walking around like saying that they love communism, but then they've never actually read into the history of communism all over the world. Because I remember growing up in the 90s when I was a kid, we heard about communism just because, like, when I was born, that's when communism fell in Russia. So that was like a big thing to talk about in class.
Also, you had a lot more Vietnam vets, like Korean War vets, like who would also talk about it.
Yep.
Back in those days, like now, we've had a few wars ourselves. That's the talk of the town. That's what we talk about. We don't talk about the old communist conflicts.
No. So that's pretty interesting that you get to see a little bit of what it was sort of like, like.
Yeah. I also think like it was an interesting, like we talk about the differences and my experience and the experience of what it would have been like to grow up in Romania or Albania. Like it's kind of night and day, but I also think like, the mindset is different, right? Like I didn't quite understand how, like when I first started working in Romania, I didn't they had parastatal business, which was like half government owned, half private industry. And that's just not really something that exists. It's either, fully owned by the government or private over in the United States. Right.
Yes.
And in Romania, there was a hybrid model where, it was almost like you hear about the Russian oligarchs or whatever. It was almost like they had been given a certain sector of resources to manage, and part of that was managed through the government, and then part of that was private industry. And I never fully really grasped that while I was over there, but
I got you.
Yeah, there's a mentality too that's very different from how we all grew up.
Absolutely. When I dated that girl from the Ukraine, she hated communism like with a fucking passion. Like she was all about capitalism. I would hear her talk about that all the time, about how horrible communism was. And I remember one time me and her went to a party back when we were in college. It was like 2011, and I don't know, this girl was talking about how she loved communism and all this, and my girlfriend was like, at the time, was like, you don't really know what the fuck you're talking about. And she goes, how would you know? And my girlfriend was like, I lived in Soviet Russia.
I lived in the USSR. I think I have some experience here.
Yeah, and just
Trump card.
Yeah, and then just because she told me that just because it collapsed in 1991 doesn't mean that those things weren't still there for like a decade later.
I mean, Russia today. Not sure about today, but like a few months ago, most of the state still owns most businesses, and then there's very few private businesses, and people, still live in relative squalor. I mean, you can have a good job that you would get paid lots of money over here for, like being a doctor or a dentist, but in Russia, you're not paid anything to do those jobs. Like if you're a political figure, you get a nice amount of money.
So sounds like there's no incentive.
No, but I mean, at the same time, being a doctor is still better than working at a corner store.
Well, yeah, of course.
So there is the incentive of like, oh wait, maybe if I'm a doctor, I could at least save a little bit and move out. But if you're a store clerk, you're stuck in Russia.
Jesus.
Yeah, I certainly felt like, there was, like I said, just a different mentality, and still certainly in Albania there was still very much a presence of communist influence, even if it wasn't the outright declared government. I still think they were transitioning to something that resembles more open and free at the time I was there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, being that you've been in California on and off over the years, have you noticed? Because I have my buddy lives out there, and he told me that since he moved out there like a decade ago, that he can see that California's really gone downhill. Do you notice that as well?
You know, that's an interesting question. I mean, it's definitely different, than when I first moved out there. I think for LA, where I lived, I mean, it's always been a big city, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's always had big city issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've noticed um, like increasingly alarming amounts of crime or whatever. Like I think that's been sensationalized a little bit by the news. And at the end of the day, like California is still there's still a reason why people want to live there, right? Like it's still a beautiful part of the country, and
Mm-hmm.
the weather is arguably second to none.
Yep.
And I think those things are still true.
Mm-hmm.
I still I think LA's got some of the best, I don't know, restaurants and medicine and universities. That like there's still a lot of that is still there. The homelessness and the housing problem was there when I moved, and it continues to exist, and maybe is worse today than certainly it was when I got there. And I think that we don't like I said, for my wife and I think it was important that we just had a different vision for what we wanted for our daughter more than anything, and I think that had more to do with um, yeah, like educational opportunities, what the private schools out there, a good private school is 40 grand a year. And like, that's
Yeah.
just, that's just a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
paying a college tuition for 12 years to get your kid educated, or, I mean, it's not that there's not good public schools, there are, but housing, and you pay a few $1 million for a house to get in a good school district. So I think we just ultimately decided that it would be an easier, slower pace of life if I commuted to LA.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know here in Atlanta we have our homeless problem has gotten
It's
worse.
growing.
It's growing. It's gotten really bad. It's also getting to the point here where it's very unaffordable to live in the city anymore over here in
Shoot.
in Cal in Atlanta. So
I mean, you can't even really live where I'm living, and that used to be the affordable place to live in North Georgia.
yeah, Atlanta, just Georgia in general, has gotten really expensive. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate.
Well, yeah, I think there's, I hope, I don't know whether there are or there aren't, but I hope that there's people that are a lot smarter than me working on all those problems.
I hope so too. I mean, we've been talking about this inflation thing for a while. Me and him on and off, and
Yeah.
it's concerning because like I recently the place I'm moving to, we actually signed a 3-year lease with the house me and my buddy are gonna rent. And the reason why we did that is because we were just unsure about what's going to happen with inflation. When we sign a 3-year lease, we lock in that price for those 3 years.
Yeah.
Whether it goes up or goes down. And we're hoping that we're hoping it'll go down because I'd like to be a homeowner. I almost bought a house a couple years ago and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, shoot, you used to be able to rent, though, a whole house for $600 out here.
yeah, used to.
Wow.
Now
Now it's like 1,600.
1,600, 1,700 rent a house. It's
Wow.
like almost tripled.
Yeah.
I was looking at the
Yeah.
apartment I rented back in 2010. Me and my girlfriend were renting it. It was like over here in this place we call Sandy Springs. It was $650 for a 1-bedroom apartment, and that same place is now $1,300.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
No.
like that neighborhood that's like right near my place before you hit the square?
Yeah.
That place is like $1,100, $1,200, and it's a really small shack almost, pretty much what you're looking at in terms of getting a rental property, and they're charging you out the ass for that stuff, and it's crazy.
Well, where you're at, did you buy a house like a long time ago?
No, we bought a condo in LA and lived in a condo in LA
Hmm.
for many years, and
Hmm.
then used the sale of that condo to buy a house in Bend, where we live now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
So,
Smart move.
yeah. That's I would
well,
imagine it's a lot cheaper up there to live in Oregon than it is to live in California, right?
yeah. I was surprised. I think my wife and I, you know, thought that when we were leaving California, we would get a pretty significant cut in our in how much it cost us to live, and it hasn't proven to be as significant as we hoped. I've heard of people, leaving California and getting, a 50% reduction in their expenses or something. And, California is an expensive place to live. There's no doubt about it. And we thought by moving to Oregon, we would, you know, end up saving a ton of money. And we've definitely saved some, but, it hasn't been as much as, the gas prices here are still,
Pretty high.
high fours, in
Yep.
California, they're mid fives, right? So it's a little bit, and every bit helps right now. But
Yeah, our gas prices are like the mid threes right now.
Yeah, I don't think
yeah,
they're going to go down very much more. I think they're stuck now.
Probably for a little while. I remember when Trump was in office, we were sitting at like the low twos.
$1 or $2 was
Yeah,
about it.
wow.
yeah, it
But
was pretty cheap.
that was also that was also because we started to became a major natural gas and oil producer at that point too.
Yeah, it's true. It
So
definitely
that was
helps.
different. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's when you start taking road trips everywhere, right? $1 gas,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah, that's the time to go do some fun stuff.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
got to North Carolina and gas was like $1, I was like, "Oh my god, I can go anywhere."
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad told me
Yeah.
he remembers when gas was 50 cents a gallon.
I
Right.
bet when it went to
I,
70, everyone was freaking out.
I, I do remember one year when I was in high school in like the late '90s when gas was under $1, and I just remember we were driving everywhere.
Yeah, it must have been interesting growing up back then without like social media like it is now because y'all had like very basic internet. So,
I'm
Shoot.
not that much older than you are, man. Yeah,
but I mean,
I,
like,
I do remember the rise of social media, though.
no, but I'm saying like when you being in high school in the late '90s, y'all didn't have like see when I was in high school, we got the very first incarnation of social media. I graduated high school in 2007.
You had the MySpace.
Yeah, we had the MySpace, and I remember when Facebook in 2006 was brand spanking new, and
Yeah.
so was YouTube. It was like,
So
what were you gonna say?
yeah, I'll tell you a little fun fact. So I went to Yale,
Okay.
um,
Nice.
when when uh, when Zuckerberg was at Harvard,
Oh
and
shit.
so
Hmm.
the beginning of Facebook was actually, if you've seen the movie, was actually based on uh, what amounts to a Facebook or a yearbook of the incoming class of so each class at the Ivy League schools had a Facebook of that class, and so you'd take a picture when you got to school, and they would list your name and a photo of you online, and that was actually the 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 inspiration for what they created at Harvard, and it came from Harvard to Yale.
Oh
And
wow.
so one of my if I was on Tinder or whatever those dating profiles are, which I'm not because I'm happily married, but if I was, one of my claims to fame would be I was one of the first 500 people on Facebook because it went to the Harvard crew guys and then to the Yale crew guys and then from the Yale crew guys to the Yale football team. So I
Oh
remember it back when it was the Facebook.
yeah. So I know that I've done a lot of research about the internet, and I'd read somewhere that on those Ivy League schools back in the day that the internet was actually really high speed compared to the rest of the country. So y'all had like really fast internet or something like that. Was that true?
I I don't remember it being like uh any faster. I mean, it was fast, but I don't remember it being any faster than necessarily anywhere else.
Okay.
I think it was just relatively faster than most places.
Yeah, because now we have gigabit speeds. When I was in high school, we were dealing with like maybe 10 to 20 megs at the most.
Yeah, something like that.
It was like pretty slow, but then like in the matter of 2 decades, we've gone up to gigabit speeds, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we have Google Fiber over here, and they offer us up to 3 gigs now in this area.
Oh wow.
So
That's fast.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty fast. So I don't know if you guys have that out there yet.
I have not experienced Google Fiber. I've been told great things though.
Yeah, they're pretty good. My buddy has it. I have right now. I have Xfinity, and I think I get 1,200 megabits per second. So it's like a gig and a like 1.2 gigs.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's enough for me. I don't.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I could even have half of that, and I'd be cool with what I do, because I do upload a lot of videos. So it's takes a lot of bandwidth to do stuff like that.
Sure.
So, but that's pretty cool. So you went to Yale. Were you like a legacy at Yale? Was it like with your dad or anything?
No. My whole family went to the University of Texas, going back many generations. And the truth is that's where I wanted to go.
Oh.
But I wanted to play football in college and didn't get an opportunity anywhere. Didn't get an opportunity at the University of Texas. And so Yale offered me the opportunity to play football, and I had a friend, a really close friend, whose older brother had gone to Yale 2 years ahead of me, and he hosted me on my visit and kind of sold me on the school and obviously the academic reputation and
yeah. It's like one of the best school in the United States. I think Harvard maybe tied or something like that.
No, you need to shut your mouth with that. We don't like that too much as Yale guys.
Oh.
Can't be talking about Harvard like that.
Well, I heard that Yale is like the best school in the United States, like if not like one of the best schools. Like I heard that Harvard is like trying to keep up with them. I mean, that's what I read. Every time I ever looked at a top 10 list of universities, Yale is usually like number one. So
that's much better. I really appreciate your sentiment there. Yeah.
This is like the East Coast, West Coast rivalry of rap music. Yale versus Harvard.
Except with really snooty academic reputations, right?
Yeah. But then when you talk about like tech schools, they say MIT is like the best tech school in the United States.
Yeah.
I know we have Georgia Tech down here. Georgia Tech is like number 5 in the United States. So then we also have Emory. Emory's like top 10 in the United States as well.
Yep.
So
nice.
But
nice.
Me and him, we went to North Georgia, so we just went to a local state university. So.
It's okay. We'll try to get through life.
My kind of tongue-in-cheek line that I say about my experience as Yale is, hey, I got the same degree as you guys in a small sense of entitlement. So we both have college degrees, and all I got was being told that I was supposed to be a congressman. So
oh wow.
You should have been a congressman, not an actor. That's for those Harvard folk.
Those Harvard losers.
Those losers at Harvard.
Was that so? That must have been so. When you lived up there, was that a cool experience living on campus in Yale and like experiencing? Because I bet that was a little bit of a different life than what you remember like in Texas, because that's two totally different places. So
culture shock.
Culture shock. So
for sure. I mean, I'm not a cold weather guy in spite of living in Oregon, and so. Yeah, the winters were a major adjustment, and then I think, when you first, New Englanders have a reputation for being New Englanders, and I think that reputation is well founded, and that they're a little rougher around the edges and a little more gruff, and I grew to love that. It was a little off-putting to start from a friendly Southern Texas guy, but as you start to see it as part of their charm, and even become a little bit grumpy yourself.
That happened to me when I went up to New York. I'm a Southern guy, just like you, except we're over here on the East Coast versus Texas. But I'd like to think that Texans and people from Georgia are very similar. So when I went up to New York for the first time with my girl, we stayed in Brooklyn and we were driving around, and I turned into a straight up asshole after being there for 3 days because it was just me like telling people to move the fuck out of the way because they were just like, because when I first came up there with her, I was like, man, there's a lot of people just walking around on the road. And she's like, yeah, we got to do this. She rolled the window down and she was like screaming at them, telling them to get the fuck out of the road. And looked at her, I was like, damn, that sucks. And she's like, don't worry about it. They know what's up. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It for me, it was, like I said, the winters were tough, and when you're inside all day, you can kind of become a little grumpy. But I think it's part of the charm of being up there. Like if New England wasn't, I mean, New England's New England, right? And that's part of their charm is they'll tell you to get the hell out of the road, and they'll talk a little shit, and it's all good fun.
that's where a lot of lobster boat guys live, right? New England, they like go out and catch the lobsters. Yeah. Maybe that's why they were a little crabby, huh?
Yeah.
They're eating way too much clam chowder and they need to chill out on that.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure they would have stereotypes to throw at you guys about sweet tea and whatever else,
definitely.
So
Diabetes.
My sister's my wife.
My sister cousin.
My neph's son.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Uncle Daddy.
Yeah, we have a lot of bad stereotypes down here in Georgia. I will say though, out of all the southern states over here, I'd say that Alabama and Mississippi are way worse than we are. Like in terms of like quality of life, because I've kind of looked at like quality of life in the South, and the worst by far is Mississippi. Mississippi is always considered like the worst state in the United States. And
really?
my dad's an electrical engineer, so he travels a lot to work. And he went to Mississippi one time just to do some work, and he said he couldn't find a bookstore while he was out there. It was really difficult.
Them books is Yankee technology used to destroy the South.
I don't know why.
Why is Mississippi the worst state? Like, what does it rank as the worst as?
Literacy, mathematics, and a couple of other things, but it's like the education level is just it's almost like, so when I was looking at the states, they have like a ranking, like it's like 0 out of 100, and most of the states, like the good states, like they put California at a higher ranking because of the quality of life for most people. Places like up north have a higher quality of life, like in terms of intelligence, people working, the amount of, believe it or not, Colorado had one of the highest like rankings.
Really?
Yeah, quality of life. People were really healthy physically, mentally.
Oh, I believe that.
Not a whole lot of stress. I think they got like a 99% or something like that. It was like really good.
Wow.
Yeah, but Mississippi got like a 55. It was not good.
No, Mississippi's always bad. Every time in history, Mississippi's always bad.
Yeah, it was apparently just because of a lot of like issues with like education is like the most important thing, and then Alabama's not too far behind. And I can honestly attest to that because my dad used to own a condo down in Florida, and I'd have to drive through Alabama to get there. And I stopped in this really small town to get some food, and these two like really obese women came out to get my to get my food for me. And I tried to communicate with them, and the communication was just not happening. Like it's almost like they couldn't understand what I was saying. Or
you were speaking English and they were speaking something else.
I don't know. It was really bad. I ended up leaving though because I couldn't communicate with them. But it was like
I don't know. I mean, like I haven't been to Mississippi, and I think I've only been to Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like like the stereotype of everybody in the South being nice is really true.
Yeah,
it is.
My experience was like everybody's just so damn nice. Like, and even more like because I kind of think Texas is its own thing. Like Texas is kind of I mean, it's not really the South. It's not really the Southwest. It's kind of just Texas.
Texas is kind of its own country, isn't it?
If you talk to some Texans, they certainly think so. But no, but I think the stereotype of people in the South just being really, really friendly is really true.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Southern hospitality is definitely a thing, and something that I've talked about with a lot of Southerners about something that's a phenomenon here in the South is the backhanded compliment.
Yep.
They'll say stuff like, bless your heart.
He's as smart as a whip.
He's as smart as a whip, which basically means he's
Pretty dumb.
He's pretty dumb, basically. So
You're just like, oh, thanks. Wait a minute.
yeah, you gotta like think about it for a second. But yeah, it's one of those things. And another thing is they'll be really nice to your face, but then they'll talk about you behind your back. So it's pretty,
maybe that's what was happening to me because everybody was really nice to my face.
they're probably like, oh, this Alvin guy's really cool, and then like behind closed doors, like fucking hate that guy.
Maybe it's the opposite up north. You think they're talking like a lot of shit about you, and then all of a sudden they're like, when you leave, you're like, God, that's a good guy. Love that guy.
That'd be pretty funny if that was the case.
So you piece of shit, you motherfucker. What a nice guy.
What a nice guy.
That'd be true.
Yeah. How often do you go to Portland?
Not yet, actually. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty. Bend is a little secret, I think, in terms of like quality of life factors here. I mean, it's arguably one of the best beer towns in America. So if you're a beer guy, there's a lot of great beer up here. I'm 5 minutes from a national forest that will blow your mind.
That would be nice.
I love that shit.
There's a big river. I fly fish on the river. It's
good kayaking.
Good kayaking. Good paddleboarding. So I grew up in Austin, Texas, which
keep it weird.
Is more like LA today than it was when I grew up. But Bend reminds me of Austin when I was growing up. It's a little smaller. I mean, Bend's only about 90,000 people, and Austin when I was growing up was 400,000 or 500,000 people. But Austin's blown up. It feels like I said, like LA. So Bend feels a lot more like how I grew up in Austin.
Oh, that's probably a good feeling for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the I like the vibe up here. It's real relaxed, and it's a good place to raise a family.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, I've never been to Oregon, so I just had to ask like if you ever been to Portland, because I had two friends of mine who moved to Portland, and they said they wanted to move there to pursue a music career. I think is what they said.
It sounds about right.
Yeah.
So
I need to get up there more, and I think there's a really good scene. I mean, I visited once, and the restaurants and the coffee and all that stuff. I mean, I think it's one of those towns that's really nice. I still can't quite figure out what the industry is. Like what outside of being a banker or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, like what people in frankly, most of the people who live in Bend are remote workers or work from home, or and it kind of seems like that's obviously prevalent across the country now, but it seems like that's certainly prevalent in Oregon. Seems like a lot of folks are kind of good, because I can't figure out what people do for work.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. I mean, I work remotely like 3 times a week myself, so I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only go into my office twice a week. So.
Seems to be where the world's headed, and I don't think any of us mind it.
Yeah, what happened at my company is they said about 2 months ago they wanted everybody to start coming back in the office, and after enough people were complaining about it, they just said, fuck it, we're going to stick with what we had before.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a blessing for me, because like I said, like I would still be living in LA if full time if COVID hadn't changed how people can work. And I still go down there quite often, and like I said, take meetings or do auditions or whatever, but it's certainly freed up a little bit of flexibility in an industry that wasn't terribly flexible prior to that. So
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I dig it. So we're reaching the 5-minute mark
All right.
for the podcast. We got 5 minutes left. So would you like to plug anything?
Yeah, I'm building up some my website and my we're putting together a number of different projects under my production shingle, and so we'd like to let some people know about that, and you can go to Simpatico Media. That's SIMP ATICO media.xyz, and sign up for our newsletter, and we'll let you know when we've got a bunch of different content coming out, and excited about that.
Cool.
Or you can find me on Instagram at AECowan10.
Okay.
All right.
What y'all got coming down the pipeline?
Number of different podcast plays. I got something that should be coming out in the fall with the Athletic called Something in the Water. It's about concentrations of highly successful athletes in a given location. I just did a pretty big guest star on Better Call Saul that you'll see later this season on Better Call Saul. I won't give any spoilers there just because I don't want to ruin it for.
I need to go back and watch it again.
So yeah, number of exciting things in the works. I'm getting ready to write a movie, so I'll be announcing about that pretty soon. So yeah,
well, I'm very interested to hear about that because of what I do. So yeah, keep me in the loop. We'll
I will
stay in touch.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever told you this, that you look just like Heath Ledger a little bit?
I get I get fat Matt Damon, and I get that's from my buddies who can do that to me, and then I get Chris Pratt a lot.
I could see Chris Pratt too.
Yeah.
When I looked at you, I was thinking like Heath Ledger from that movie, A Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my hair is a little longer now. I think you're just driving on the hair, but yeah. No, I'll take it. Hey, all three really, really talented dudes, right? So I'll take it. That's good company.
Yep. So this is kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for checking out this episode. Thanks for being on, Mr. Alvin. We'd love to have you on the podcast. Thanks for your insight about what it was like, being out in LA, getting to work with some cool people, being in Romania and
Albania.
Yeah.
Just
sounds like a very
travel tips in Eastern Europe. I'm your guy.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. We'll let them know. But go to the website, www.dumbcoolweird.com. Check out our merch store. Leave a comment, subscribe, and check out our new stuff coming. We schedule everything out so you can actually see it on our YouTube channel when it's coming. And we're on 40 plus different platforms. And as always, have a great day.
And stay sexy, Atlanta.
Thanks for checking out the Dumb Cool Weird podcast. Go to our website, www.dumbcoolweird.com, to check out our merch and all our social media links. If you want to check out how to support us and our audio podcasts only, and an access to our website and all of our other links for our social media, go to linktree.com, which has Dumb Cool Weird podcast. The link is up below. Hope you guys will check us out. We have new content coming out every single Monday. We have new content coming out every single day. Check it for 9 a.m. Clips, reactions, whatever. We got it coming for you. Hope you come out, check it out. Stay sexy, Atlanta, and keep watching our crap.